Hi, everyone. I'm Max from AFM. Welcome to the Pilot Training Connect podcast, where we interview individuals from the pilot training industry to learn more about their organization and their views. Every week, we invite an industry leader to sit down with us, and this week, I have the great pleasure to be joined by David Coward, Vice President and General Manager, Training Services at L3Harris Commercial Aviation. Welcome to the Pilot Training Connect podcast, David.
Thanks, Max. Pleasure to be here.
So for everyone who's listening, I think let's start off by just giving them kind of an overview of the size and operations that L3Harris Commercial Aviation offers in specifically the pilot training space.
Sure, Max. So L3Harris is a huge US corporation, $16 billion, and within the corporation, we run a sector called commercial aviation. Commercial aviation covers avionics, so flight deck recorders, ADS-B transponders, T3 CAS, things of that nature. We also have a simulator manufacturing capability, so we manufacture everything from classroom-based products up to full-flight simulators. And we also have a training services division, which is flight academies, and 3 airline training centers, simulator centers around the world, as well as a flight data business, which is taking aircraft data, creating insights from that data to play back to airlines and now into our academy.
Oh, fantastic. And to specifically go into your flight training and full flight simulator operations. So you mentioned you have 3 full flight simulator training centers around the world?
That's correct, Max. So we have a training center in Gatwick in the UK, 8-bay facility there, and some fixed base trainers as well. We have a training center over in Bangkok, again another 8-bay center with some lower level devices, and we also operate a 737 down in Miami, over in the US.
Okay.
And then on our academy side, we have 2 ATOs. We have a UK EASA ATO, headquartered in the UK, and we have a US ATO over in Sanford, Florida. So the UK training we split between 3 locations. We do our classroom ground school in Gatwick at the training centre with the simulators, so great airline environment for our students to learn in. We utilise Cranfield University up in the Midlands, and that is our multi-engine IR base for our UK and European students. And then the phase in the middle, they go out and utilise our Florida base. So they take advantage of the sunny skies that Florida gives, and they complete all their single engine and their VFR training over there.
Okay. And can you give maybe a bit more of an indication of the size of your operations? So, for example, in your flight school ATOs, how many training aircraft do you have in total?
Sure. So we have over in the US, we have about 70 aircraft. So it's a mix of predominantly Cessna and Pipers, Piper Archers and Seminoles. And then over in the UK, we have a fleet of 18 aircraft, and they are Diamond DA-42s and DA-40s, and a couple of Slingsbys, which we do our UPRT training. Okay. And then alongside that, we have a number of fixed base simulators. So we have 3 up in Cranfield, and we have about 6 over in Sanford supporting that flight training operation.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, the way that I see L3Harris CAS, especially on the ab-initio pilot training side, being positioned is you're primarily focused to be an airline pilot training solution partner of choice, correct?
That's right, Max, and all of our training is centered that way. So we're not a flight school. We like to call ourselves an airline academy, and that is evident from everything we do within our training. So the way we run our procedures and SOPs, the way we conduct safety and safety management, our new flight data monitoring program, everything is geared towards around making our students ready for those airline careers. even the environments we're training in, we're training our cadets in an environment where they're mixing with our simulator customers, so current pilots and airline customers, as well as the airline programs that we work with. So there's a good atmosphere and good engagement between our students and those airline customers that just help them going through their studies.
Yeah. And talking about kind of training for airlines, can you share some of the recent announcements? I know that the industry has been coming out of the pandemic quite strong. Airlines are looking, are restarting cadet programs, are looking to secure their supply lines of new pilots. Can you share with everyone some of the recent announcement that L3 has made in terms of new programs that you've launched with partners?
Sure. So in the UK and the European side, the most recent announcement is ANA. So ANA are a long-term partner of L3Harris. We do a lot of work with them in various fronts. And previously, we've been training the Peach cadets, which are a subsidiary of ANA. We've now expanded that program to cover the ANA mainline airline. So now the ANA students will be coming through our school starting in a couple of months, and that will blossom into further cadets as we go through the next few years. On the other side of the Atlantic, in the US, we have 11 airline partners, and the most recent one we've added there is Spirit. So again, another pilot pathway. We help those students as they become instructors in the US with us transition into the airlines as they build their 1,500 hours, and then Spirit help with mentoring and supporting them into their careers.
Okay, and just for everyone who's listening who might not know this, so ANA is All Nippon Airways, Japanese, if I'm not mistaken, the Japanese flag carrier as well.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so the Japanese cadet pilots are coming all the way from East Asia to do their training with L3 in its European operations. I think that's really a sign of confidence and a sign of how great your training is in your locations.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Yes, it is. It's a recognition of the quality of the training that we've done with them previously, but also the strength of the partnership that we have with them. So we have a very strong relationship with ANA. We work very openly with them, and that's transitioned into this program. We're really proud of it.
Okay, and then now just slightly shifting from the flight training side to the full flight simulator training side. Both, I know that L3Harris Commercial Aviation sells full flight simulators, but then also has its own training centers. Can you share some recent announcements in terms of the growth that L3 has seen on that side?
Yeah, the simulators, the training centers that we operate both in London and Bangkok are absolutely chocker in terms of the demand that we're taking into those. London is running pretty much at 100% capacity at the moment, and Bangkok is a little bit behind, but still 80-90% as we're taking customers back in. It varies between fleet, of course. But we're seeing huge demand for now training as the airlines are starting to put more capacity back into the air in those regional centres, and we're seeing that on the system side as well in terms of the sales that we're making on full flight simulators and other lower level devices. So again, as the airlines are going back into full growth mode, that is releasing capital in terms of investing in training. Most recently with Airbus, for example.
Yeah, I think what I was really amazed by was L3Harris winning this award from Airbus for its own Toulouse training center for an Airbus A320. So once again, the leading or the OEM of a specific type kind of awarding the contract for you to supply them with an Airbus A320 is, once again, I think the greatest sign of confidence of the quality that L3 delivers.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
The other big change that we've started to incorporate into our products more recently is using that data capability that we have within the sector. So Flight Data Solutions, their business is about taking flight deck data from recorders and providing the analysis as part of a typical safety program that's mandated within Europe. But more and more now, we are starting to move into the space of using that data to provide benefit to airline operators. So how can we deliver benefit and value to them through the insights that we can gather from that data? And one of the projects we undertook over the last couple of years as COVID was moving through was to pull that technology into our flight training schools. So all of our aircraft now are equipped with data transmitters. So as soon as an aircraft lands, data is provided back to Whiteley in the south of England. It's within about 4 minutes of touchdown. That data is analysed and then provided back to our flight operations. And there's three things that we're doing with it. One, and first and foremost, it's driving safety. So it's looking for trends, it's looking for events that aren't necessarily very evident or within our typical viewpoints. It's also being used for training and massively valuable when you're talking about a solo student. So with an instructor in the cockpit, the value is less. The instructor is observing that flight. But when a student is solo, and you are relying on their recollections to be able to have a meaningful debrief with them. Sometimes things in a high stressful situation are not recalled as clearly, so we're able to use that data to reinforce learning, to create a better learning environment for our students. And then finally, and this is where the airlines then start to play in on the larger applications of this, is how we can use that data to provide operational benefit. So is there trends within the data that we see that are with a tweak of policy or a tweak of operational deployment, we can create a benefit. We're seeing great success with this program, and particularly on the safety side, it's really underpinning a really healthy safety culture, which is aligned to that type of safety culture that an airline would deploy. And hence our students are experiencing that ahead of their journey into the airlines. It's fantastic.
And it sounds like this is a fairly kind of unique feature that your flight school ATOs or your airline academy flight training ATOs are having. How long did it take, maybe just to give a high level indication, how long did it take to kind of develop and implement that to the fleet that you're operating across the different bases?
Yeah, it is unique. It is a commercial product that is widely deployed on commercial aviation within the airlines, but in an application like an academy, it isn't. It's not so much the data that is the important part of it, is the insights that you generate from the data. So the value that we add here is the analysis that we do of that data to really drive the insights that we take away from it. So the project was over the last 2 years, and the challenging part of it was, like I said, taking the data and translating it to something. So training aircraft are performing and being handled in a very different way to that of an A320 and a 737. But taking the core technology that we had and tailoring it, customizing it for an academy application took quite a lot of work. But we're pretty much there now. We're still refining some of the parameters and the thresholds such that we're seeing the really valuable insights. But yeah, it's proving hugely successful, and it's something that both our staff are loving because it's giving them another tool to help them on their training, the training they're delivering. but also in terms of our customers, in terms of what they're seeing, what they are able to understand. It really brings some of our training and our environment to life.
Yeah. I feel like the second thing, which I think L3 has done quite well, or positioned it quite well, which I would love for you to share more about, is you've set up your airline academy flight training operations in such a way that you can now utilize your US operations, which have a capacity in terms of flight instructors, in terms of aircraft, and where scaling with 1,500-hour rule is easier due to a higher supply of flight instructor. You have positioned that so that it is able to offer multiple licenses through training through that training base as well. Can you just kindly share how any potential airlines which might be looking for a cadet program under a specific licensed jurisdiction could utilize the current setup that you have?
Sure. So yeah, we installed into our in our Florida Flight Academy through last year the approvals for us to conduct UK CAA training, but also EASA as well. So both licenses. And what it enables us to do is do all of our single engine, our VFR training, right up to CPL over in the sunny skies of Florida as part of those UK and EASA ATPL programs. And there's multiple benefits to it, but the key one here is the fair weather and the operational reliability that we get from Florida. So for airlines, it's a very attractive proposition. So you've got very good airspace to be able to do those early phases of flights where you want clear space. It's about learning to handle an airplane and not have to worry about the complications that come later in your journey in managing IR and traffic and things like that. And we've coupled with the weather and the way that we're able to fly so reliably over there in Sanford, it puts a surety into our training timelines. So that's going to be really key for the airlines as they go through their growth and pilot shortages start to become a bigger and bigger challenge, knowing that the timeline that their future cadets are on is reliable and can be delivered on time is very important. And as you touched on it as well, Max, with the 1,500-hour rule in instructors, it also gets ahead of another challenge, which is going to be as the airlines start to pull back instructors from flight training sectors, as they are trying to attract pilots into the industry. With the 1,500-hour rule in the US, it gives us a slightly different model in order to put some assurance into our instructor pipeline and protect us on that front as well. So it was a move with a number of benefits, not to mention the benefits that it gives our customers in spending half a year in the sunny skies of Florida. I certainly would have liked to have done that when I was their age.
Oh, it sounds perfect. Maybe I'll consider becoming a pilot, and then if I was to consider becoming a pilot, I think one of the destinations I would definitely highly put at the top of my list is Florida. So I went to visit it 2 times already, and I think there's very few places in the world where you have such flight training infrastructure, good weather, and kind of all around living environment. It sounds like L3Harris CAS really over the last 2 years kind of worked a lot on optimizing systems and putting in place really good training infrastructure and training network in order to cater to the demands of the customers after the pandemic. I want to ask you, how are you seeing things right now in the pilot training industry and in the demand for pilots from the pilot training industry by airlines?
Yeah, it's a tale of two halves for us, obviously with the 2 ATOs, the US and the UK. So the US is very healthy, and there's a huge demand for pilot training, and that is already being seen in the interest in people starting their training journeys. And the most obvious sign of that is the pivot of mix of backgrounds that we've had in the US. So we had a strong international bias pre-pandemic, whereas now we're almost about 80-90% domestic US. So the kind of the shortage, the opportunities that aviation gets in the US is definitely translating through to the training, and we're seeing a lot of course starts going on over there. In Europe, the trends are definitely going in the right direction. So we've got some healthy classes coming through each month. But although the airlines are making moves, they've started taking DEP pilots back in through the end of last year. The opportunities are there, but it hasn't quite promoted the same confidence that the US side has. So that will grow through this year, and I think we'll see more airline partnerships, more airline programs coming back, and there's a few that we are in discussions with. So hopefully we'll be able to share those soon. But that will start to increase confidence as those type come in over this year.
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, what we're seeing at on AFM side, right? We're going through this hiring cycle where, you know, first airlines were re-hiring everyone who they might have let go. Then they went and they hired the experienced captains. Then they went out to the market. They hired, you know, other experienced first officers, and kind of, you know, it kept on going and, you know, going through different pools until they get to what we started seeing towards the end of last year, end of 2022, when airlines then started opening applications again for cadet programs, starting either towards the end of 2022, but more in 2023, specifically in Europe. How do you view the overall pilot training industry compared to pre-pandemic? So for example, I'll share with you my view of it, and based on the analysis that we do at AFM, we've seen a significant decrease in flight training capacity. So whereas on the full flight simulator training side, we still have the same amount of training infrastructure across the globe and relatively the same number of players who've kind of weathered the pandemic. On the flight training side, we've seen kind of a significant shift. And from my perspective, I feel that organizations such as L3Harris Commercial Aviation are one of the very few which are still there, which can train at scale, at quality, and be able to kind of accommodate growing requests by airlines. But how do you view the size of the industry compared to pre the pandemic?
Well, without a doubt, it has definitely shrunk. The pandemic was extremely challenging for a lot of organizations. So you've seen capacity move out of the industry in that time. But you've also seen new capacity come back in or move around and in different places. So I think what we'll see is things start to be fairly settled or growing this year. But there's some real challenges coming in the future as we get back into it. And that one of the key trends we see is over the last few years, you've had fewer people coming into training. So you've got this dip of population of cadet pilots that's moving through, and as the airlines start recruiting, that pool of pilots starts to get smaller and smaller, but the supply is not coming through. So there's some short-term challenges ahead. Long-term, it's very good picture, and like you say, we are very aware that we're going to need to scale in order to support the airlines sensibly, which is why we have gone to the model that we have, the US model that we have. We're able to scale quite easily, we've got space to grow in the UK as well. So it gives us some room to be able to work with our airline partners as they start to clarify their requirements and being able to support them with their growth. So we don't then become a constraint to the airlines' aspirations to grow.
And talking about some of the challenges, I want to get your thoughts and your opinion, because once again, the things that we're seeing when we're analyzing the training infrastructures, specifically flight training across the globe, is we're seeing a steep increase in the cost to deliver flight training, to deliver pilot training, and we're seeing increasing challenges on the supply side infrastructures, from supply chain disruptions to what we discussed, labor shortages, so instructor shortages, or even management staff shortages. When you view the challenges of providing a pilot training, what challenges are kind of at the top of your mind, and what you see the industry will face over the next couple of years?
Well, there's definitely cost challenges. Costs are going up everywhere, and supply chain is a big concern or a big risk that we continually track, whether that's supply of aircraft parts or cost of fuel. All of our operating costs are under pressure. We do benefit from our corporate organization here, and we're able to use the power of that and the size of our supply chain organizations to be able to get ahead of some of those challenges. But cost is definitely a consideration. And I think on our customer side, our academy, our flight school customers, for sure, it's expense as well. Finance, the access for students to get finance in order to take the journey towards their flight training is a big barrier. And as interest rates start to rise, that barrier becomes even less. And that starts to then knock onto other challenges in terms of making sure that we've got talent in the cockpit and diversity within that talent. So these are all things that we're very aware of. We're doing some projects to try and support some of those things, particularly within diversity, and trying to work with some financial partners to see whether there's some more innovative ways that we can structure finance solutions for customers and able to break down that barrier. And I think perhaps this is another area where we might see a change of behaviours going forward, and whether the traditional models of financing a cadet program and a cadet going through on their own is supported a little bit more by the wider industry, the airlines, for example.
Well, certainly from AFM side and what we're tracking, we're seeing airlines right now doing relatively well. They're operating at high load factors, high yield numbers. If we look at the broader airline industry, it is projected to be profitable as an entire industry for the year of 2023, which doesn't often happen. And so we're starting to see kind of more airlines emerge again and kind of co-fund or fund ab-initio cadet programs. From everything that we're tracking on the AFM side, I personally think that the dominant model that we're most probably going to see emerge is something similar to what Air Baltic has done, where individuals pay for the PPL phase. And then following the PPL phase, the airline, or more often than not, its banking partner kind of provides financing for the rest. And then there's a bond or salary deductions, or kind of that I see as one of the only ways to really reduce the cost of pilot training, because as you said, the cost to deliver training is constantly going up. And so that is really increasing the barrier of entry to a wide segment of the general population. Mm. And I think that will also be supported, and the foundation of it will also be that airlines will want those pilots to stay with them for as long as possible and not just stay a couple of years and then jump to another airline, which might be paying a bit more. So it's fantastic to hear that you're also working on some of these projects, and I'm looking forward to learning more about them and covering them on AFM. The final question from my side is really around, where do you see kind of the industry going over the next 3 to 5 years, and kind of L3's position related to that?
Yeah, like I said, I think the programs, the training programs, as we tackle with the pilot demand challenges that are going to come to face in the next few years, I think our programs will start to change, start to look different. The affiliations with the airlines, how we do that, they're going to have to support that challenge in some way. I think on the simulator side, from L3's perspective, our capacity, our network will definitely grow. Like I say, we are pretty fully utilized at the moment. We're looking to expand our simulator footprint to support that training as we go through. And then finally, it's really going back to our data piece. The data is key to all of our strategy. And it's right across our commercial aviation sectors. That's how we can provide greater benefits, greater value back to our airline customers using this data, whether it's pilot data, whether it's operational data, whether it's simulated data, or whether it's aircraft data, using that in an entire ecosystem to be able to create insights that we would not be able to unless we were either analyzing that data or the entire sphere. And I think that will then lead on to other solutions, other technologies where we can deploy more targeted solutions to resolve certain challenges that we can see coming out of this data. So it's definitely a big part of how we will, or the kind of DNA behind what we will use to develop our services and products over the next few years.
I think based on like all the analysis that we do, I feel you're in such a unique position compared to the rest of the, specifically airline-focused flight training industry because of this data piece. I haven't seen many, or I think any, maybe just one, which has kind of looked at this angle quite aggressively. So yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Is there anything else you would like to share?
No, I think we've covered a good few topics there. Thank you, Max.
Well, David, thank you for sharing your insights with us. If anyone wants to learn more about L3Harris Commercial Aviation, please check out their website. We'll put the link into the AFM update. And if you're interested to connect with David, he's also on LinkedIn, so please do reach out to him. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you. And yeah, just to echo that, I'd love to speak to anybody about anything that may be of interest. And yeah, thank you very much for the time. Pleasure.